it's Oishi. Welcome back. So I've been thinking, believe it or not, I mean that's generally what people do is they think, but specifically I've been thinking quite recently about the years 2010 to 2015. Even more specifically, I've been thinking about book series that were released in the years 2010 to 2015. You know what I'm talking about. They were like really, really popular. Everybody was reading them. They were all you would see on BookTube. I read quite a lot of these super, super popular book series because like that's what you did back in the day. Like you would just read them because you want to be in the know, and for the most part I enjoyed them. But I was thinking about them the other day and I thought to myself, were they really good? Or were we just so swept up in the hype? Also, I just wanted to know, like, me, if I read them now, would I enjoy them still? Because I've gotten older, my reading tastes have changed a little bit, my brain has developed, hopefully. So I was wondering, would I still like a lot of those really popular series that I did back in the day, me now, as I am in this 2020 climate, having grown a little bit and hopefully be a little more developed in my reading tastes and know what I enjoy more? There's only one way to answer that question, which is to reread these series. And I thought, what better series to start off with than the queen of popular series during this time in era, what? And I thought, what better thing to start off with than the queen of all popular series during this era, The Hunger Games. I read the series when it first came out, when it first got a lot of popularity, and I really enjoyed it then. And then I think I reread it again like a couple years later, and I do remember enjoying it again the second time. But it's been a good, like, I don't know, 5 years since I last picked up this series, and I want to see, like, does it still hold up? Is it still good? What would I think of this now compared to what I thought of it when I first read it, probably when I was like 10, 11? I have no idea. So that's what this is. Over the next little while, I'm going to be rereading this series, updating you along the way about my thoughts now versus my thoughts when I first read them, and we're going to see. We're going to answer the question, is the Hunger Games series still good? I put my lamp up there. I don't know if this is good. Hopefully it is. So I finished this. And I completely did an update because I was just reading and reading and reading and I didn't even say any of my thoughts, so I thought I'd do that right now. The first thing that I really noticed about this was Katniss's voice. She has a very distinct voice that I don't think I ever picked up on before when I read it years and years ago. Here's a little example of something I picked up in her voice. Well, he's right about one thing. I'm going nowhere. All the relief from the pool water has gone, leaving me to feel the full potency of my burns. I scoot down to a fork in the tree and clumsily prepare for bed. Put on my jacket, lay out my sleeping bed, belt myself in and try to keep from moaning. The heat of the bag's too much for my leg. Suzanne Collins writes with a lot of periods, so she'll have a lot of like half sentences, things that another writer might have used for commas to make a sort of list, but I actually like the way that she's written it out. It just feels like Katniss to me. Like Katniss she's very blunt, she's kind of straight to the point, doesn't really dilly-dally, and doesn't give you more than you need. That's just who she is as a person, that's who she's grown up to be, and I like that that's reflected in her writing. She doesn't have these overly long, beautiful, dilly-dallying sentences. They are sometimes more short, they are to the point, they are short, sweet, and just brief. They tell you what you need to know, and I think that really works for her as a character. I also really enjoyed Katniss as a character. I thought I would again because, you know, she's beloved. She was definitely the first of her kind, as in the first female character that was kind of less feminine and had more coldness to her, I feel like. I don't know if coldness is the right word. Sometimes I'd be reading from her perspective and I'd be like, okay, I've seen this a lot. I've seen this a million times. But then I'd remember, like, she was the first one. And also, the reason she is the way she is, I feel like is a lot more well thought out and well built up than it is in a lot of other books. Katniss has trust issues and she's kind of harsh, blunt, and doesn't smile a lot, but that's only because when her dad died and her mom fell into a depression, like, she is the one who had to step up and take over and make sure that she and her mother and Prim didn't starve. That's why she's not very smiley, that's why she is straight to the point and very cold cut. Her trust issues stem from this as well, because when her mom fell into depression, she couldn't help but blame her mom, and we see those trust issues come back once she's been reaped, so she's on the train and also in the games. Like, she spends a lot of the time that they're on the train and before heading into the games trying to figure out what is Peeta's strategy. Like, what is he doing? What is he trying to pull with Haymitch? She doesn't know whether she can trust him or not, and that goes back to her terrible trust issues, but also that's just how her brain works. Another thing is that she's not particularly feminine, like she doesn't wear a lot of makeup or dresses just back at home, but like that's for a reason also. In other books it's sometimes like, oh, I just don't like to wear dresses because that's stupid, but for Katniss she has a definite reason for never getting those things. It's because she's poor, like she can't afford any of that. She doesn't have time or money for really nice dresses and, you know, makeup, high heels, things like that, and that's why when she is put into those clothes, it doesn't feel like her because she just doesn't have the time for that at home, and so of course she's never had that before. But she also can appreciate them. Like when she's looking at Cinna's designs, she thinks they're beautiful and she likes to wear them, but at the same time they don't make her feel like her, because her in her normal life would never be able to have that sort of thing. I think she was developed really well, kind of a lot better than some of the other female characters that came after her that were trying to ride off her wave. Is that mean to say? I don't know. Everything about her is there for a reason. It goes back to her past, it goes back to the way she's been raised, or rather the way that she's had to raise herself. So everything about her character makes sense for the life that she's lived so far. I forgot how much I love Peeta. I've seen the movie a lot more often than I've read the book, and so I think when I think of Peeta, I am remembering movie Peeta a lot more than book Peeta, and movie Peeta, they're different. Book Peeta is both very sweet and charming and cute and just snuggly, like you just want to give him a big hug, but he's also really snarky and sarcastic and funny, and I like that about him. They balance each other out really well. It gives him a great rapport with Katniss too. Movie Peeta has less of the snarkiness and the sarcastic. He's still very sweet and charming, but they sort of watered him down. They took out a lot of the snark, and I think that's a real shame because I forget how much I love Peeta in the book. I totally forgot that he rips off bits of his bun and dips it in his hot chocolate. Like, that is so cute. That is so endearing. You can't tell me that that doesn't make your heart just warm. The book is also pretty fast-paced. It's just thing after thing after thing after thing is happening, especially after we get into the games. There is no time for rest. Of course, I mean, people are literally trying to kill you, so there wouldn't be time for any rest. And I like the pace that it kept up. It was very fast. It's very quick and easy to get through as well because it's just, you want to keep going, you want to keep seeing what's happened next. Even for someone like me who's read the books twice before, this is my third time reading it, and who's seen the movies as often as I have, I know everything. Like, I know this story inside and out, I know what's gonna happen, and yet still I kept wanting to keep going. I kept wanting to see what was gonna happen next because it draws you in and it doesn't let you go. Also, another thing about this book is that we're not too deep into the love triangle yet. Love triangles, not really my thing, or at least they're not anymore, so I'm interested to see how much I'm gonna enjoy it in the second book, because Gale is more present in the second book. I'm all for Team Peeta, by the way. There was a time, I think it was after I read the series for the first time, and it was a long time since I'd read it again. In that time, though, I'd seen the movies a number of times, and so a part of me was like, wait, I kind of like Gale more. But then I reread the series again, and I was like, wait, Peeta is so much better. See, they watered down Peeta's character in the movies, which is kind of sad, because he's actually really great. I think that's all I have to say about this one. I thought it was solid. It's a great start to a series, and it also sets up the danger for the next book as well because of her little stunt with the berries. Capital's not very happy about that. I'm really excited to get into Catching Fire. This one was my favorite one in the series. When I read it both the very first time and then the time after that, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And the movie, one of my favorite movies ever, just period. Not even like YA or book to movie adaptations, just one of my favorite movies ever. It is a fantastic sequel. I'm excited to see how well the book is gonna hold up because I have such glowing, beautiful memories of it in my head, and I really hope that it lives up to it. I think it will because the first time I read it, I loved it, and then I read it again, and then I loved it again, so hopefully when I read it again, I'm gonna love it again. I'm excited for some of our new characters. Finnick, Joanna, I'm ready.
Again, this couldn't happen again. This is that one.
There's a line where it's like, I really can't think about kissing when I've got a rebellion to incite. And I'm just like, same. Wow, I just realized something. If things really do get out of hand, I think they'd have no problem killing off another district, same as they did in 13. Make an example of it, you know? Wow, I never picked up on that foreshadowing the first 2 times, or at least I don't think I did, so love that. Hi, it's the next morning. Last night I got about halfway through the book. I got up to just after they were reaped, so they're on the train, they're heading back into the capital, and I don't think I realized the first 2 times that I read this just how long of a time we spend in District 12 before actually heading for the Court of Quell afterwards. It's almost perfectly halfway, which I guess makes sense because as a midpoint, that's pretty strong. It also makes sense because the main focus of this book actually isn't the games. It's more the civil unrest that's brewing after Katniss's little berries incident. I like that we spend the first half of the book in and around District 12. We get to go on the victory tour and see just how well things are faring in other districts and see what Katniss has inadvertently caused. We also get information about District 13 from Bonnie and Twill, which I'd completely forgotten about. So basically the first half of this book is dedicated to setting up the civil unrest, how Katniss has sort of inadvertently, kind of accidentally caused it. It also spends time exploring her feelings with Gale and also Peeta. I am not really hating the love triangle yet. I don't think I've ever truly hated this love triangle, but sometimes I'm like, okay girl, just shut up and make a choice. But I also understand that it's more difficult than just choosing which guy I like better because she has to also think about her safety, her family's safety, Gale's family safety, Peeta's family safety. There's a lot of people riding on who the hell she likes, so even if she decides she likes one better than the other, it's not like she has a choice in this moment in time because Peeta is the one who's going to keep her and everyone she loves safe, being with him. So even if she decided she loves Gale, which she did decide, she chose Gale over Peeta when she decided to stay instead of leave, stay for the uprisings instead of run away into the woods, but it's not like she can even do anything about that because it's marrying Peeta. That's the choice that's gonna keep everyone safe. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's actually a lot deeper than just which guy do I like. But yeah, the first half of this book is spent doing all of that, learning about all the uprisings, seeing Katniss, Peeta, Gale, and District 13, and then we get a fantastic midpoint of the Court of Quell card being read and everything falling apart, and then Katniss and Peeta being reaped once more to head back into the games. I'm so excited for the second half of this book. Man, I'm having so much fun. I'm so close to finishing this, and I'm getting so excited. They just heard the Jabberjays screaming, so they are getting to the plan with the wire and the lightning pretty damn soon. I'm so excited. I love this part. I also don't have a live synchronous afternoon class today because my teacher's absent, so she just pre-recorded the meeting. So I'm considering doing that tomorrow because I really want to finish this and start Mockingjay. But I know the more responsible thing to do would be to do the lesson today. But then again, when have I ever been responsible, you know?
This couldn't happen again. This is that once.
Katniss, there is no District 12. Man, so good, so good. I don't know what else I can say about this. I just love it so much. Second half of this book, fantastic, because that's where the Quell stuff actually starts, and then the last third of the book is even better, because that's when we're actually in the games, and then the last, 30 to 40 pages, stellar, because that's where the plan comes in with the wire, and everything starts going haywire because, it gets cut, and then Joanna yeets the cylinder into her head, and, everything falls apart. And then after that, we find out the entire plan underneath the plan. That Katniss's deal with Haymitch to get Peeta out of the games alive was never actually gonna happen. It was always gonna be her. And she finds out that the one person that she could trust, aside from Peeta, has been lying to her the entire time. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. On top of that, it also brings back the idea of being a piece in the game. In the first book, the night before they head into the arena, Peeta is talking about how he doesn't want the games to change him, how he doesn't just want to be another piece in their games, and at first Katniss doesn't understand this, but then she totally understands it after Rue dies, and she makes the nice little send-off with all the flowers and stuff. In that moment, she's saying, I'm not a piece of your games. Yes, I'm here, but if we're gonna die, I'm gonna die on my own terms, and we're not just gonna let you slaughter us like this. We're still gonna be us, human beings. And that was one of the ideas that comforted her in this book, because she knows that she's not getting out of this alive, because she thinks that she's made a deal with Haymitch to get Peeta out alive, so she knows that she's gonna die in the arena. But at least if she's gonna die, it's gonna be on her terms and not the Capitol's. She's not just being controlled by them and owned by them. She is not a piece of their games. But then we find out that she was not a piece of the Capitol's games, but she was a piece of Haymitch, Plutarch, Finnick, Joanna, Wyrus, Beatty, everybody in the arena. She was a part of their games, which was the underlying revolution plot. And ooh, the fallout from that. Not only is it devastating because she just found out that, again, the one person she could trust the most aside from Peeta has completely double-crossed her. Also, when she realizes that she cannot be controlled by anyone, it turns out she's just been controlled and manipulated by other people. It's really strong. And of course the final line, there is no District 12, is so good. I think back when this first came out, and then also when the movie came out, that was a point of confusion, I think, for people who hadn't read the book, because I don't think in the movies that they talked about District 13 as much as they did in the books, so when they said there is no District 12, it's like, huh? What do you mean? But book fans were like, we know what they mean. I still loved it just as much as I did the first 2 times that I'd read it. It's one of those sequels that takes the first story and then amps it up to 11 and gives you something even bigger and better. And I think I may have talked about this a little bit before, but I was kind of surprised that there weren't as much games as I remember. I remember there being a lot more, like them spending a lot more time in the arena than they actually did, but now that I'm rereading it and I realize that, oh, they actually don't spend that much time in the arena, it makes sense though, because the games is not the foreground of this story. It's the civil unrest and the revolution plot that's the main focus of this story. The Quarter Quell is just the perfect backdrop in which all of that happens. Loved this one. I cannot wait to pick up Mockingjay. This one I think had the most divided opinions when it first came out. There was a lot of people who enjoyed it. There was a lot more people who did not like this book. I think when I read it the first time, I fell into that camp of people who like wanted more from it. But then when I read it the second time, I think I enjoyed it a little bit more. So I'm excited to see what I think this time around.
It's a couple days later. I got really caught up in doing schoolwork and like scholarship prep and stuff, but I just wanted to pop in here and say that Katniss really forgot about Annie. Like when she was asking for the victors to have immunity, she just didn't mention Annie at all until after she saw Finnick and remembered about Annie. Like, my guy, get yourself together.
So, thoughts. First and foremost, I forgot just how dark this book is. For the entire first half, everyone is severely messed up, and for good reason, especially Finnick and Katniss. I mean, they've been through 2 games now, and the people they love are being held captive and tortured because of them, so that's not great. They are just severely out of it. Until about the halfway point, which is when they rescue the victors, and then everything's slightly better. Finnick gets Annie back. Their reunion always makes my heart just hurt, but things are still kind of sucky because we find out that Peeta has been hijacked, and then everything improves a little bit. We have our fighter mentality when they're going into the city, and we have all the pods that they're trying to disable, and then it just falls apart again after Prim's death, which, again, understandable. And I knew the story was dark, but I think I forgot just how dark it was and how awful it makes you feel to be in Katniss's head. And I guess that's the point, is because Katniss feels awful, and so you need to feel awful as well. Saddest deaths for me throughout the whole series, I think, are probably Cinna, Finnick, and Prim. Cinna believed in Katniss so much. He didn't do anything wrong. He just wanted to help and wanted to stir this movement, and he died for it. Prim was literally 13 years old, just trying to save people's lives. And Finnick had just gotten married. He was gonna have a baby. He had his whole life ahead of him. All of them had their whole lives ahead of them. Oh, let me say one more thing about the love triangle. Peeta, forever. Okay, Gale, you can leave. Get out. That's another thing. I really liked how they showed the progression of Katniss and Gale getting further and further apart. The war really showed their stances on things and where they differed. For Katniss, it hurts every time she has to kill someone, or every time they have to take lives that don't deserve to be taken. For Gale, it's more like, you did it to us, we gotta do it to you now. And my mic. And I think that's an interesting separation to show, and it makes more sense that that is how they started drifting apart, and then it's the very weapons that Gale was working on that ended up killing Prim. I think one of the biggest complaints about this book is that there's not enough action going on in it, and that people wanted Katniss to play a bigger role in actually the final takedown of the Capitol, in the final, storming the palace. Palace? Presidential palace, right? That's what it is? I think that's what it is. Of her actually killing Snow, and then we didn't get any of that. And so I think people were upset that it seemed like they had followed Katniss for 3 books now, and we were waiting for something really crazy big to happen with her, and then all we get is an explosion and her getting knocked out and then being told later that the war ended. I understand the complaint behind this, and I understand the want for the main character to do something more, to have a bigger role in the end of the war. But I also understand why the book is the way this book is. I think the way that it ended in the book fits with the theme really well. One of the big themes of this book is unity. It's been there from the very beginning, even if we haven't really noticed it. Literally, the way the Capitol rules is through division. There's 12 districts, they don't get to talk to each other. Every year, they're pitted against each other in the Hunger Games. So there's a lot of division between them, and there has been for a long time, which is how the Capitol has managed to keep their grasp on them. The main thing that would help them win the war is unity. No one district could have ever done this by themselves. It had to be all 12 districts, all of them deciding to rebel against the Capitol and work together to bring it down. Unity is the very thing that the Capitol doesn't want. So everybody coming together to make that happen, that's a really strong message. And Katniss was the catalyst for that. In fact, it's mentioned in the book, that is her main purpose, is to rally the districts and make them come all together, and she does that. So I think if Katniss were to take out Snow all by herself, or if she was the one to bring down the Capitol in the end, I think that would go against the theme of unity, because throughout the entire thing everybody has been so divided, so individual. So the fact that everybody comes together, that's really strong. But then if they had Katniss take them down anyway, it would be okay, we just went from unity to one person by themselves, separated, alone, doing everything. And that I don't think that would work for the theme. It speaks volumes that the way that the Capitol falls is through Katniss, Gale, everybody else that was in the circle, but also through the rebels, through the districts that had come together to fight. When this first came out, I didn't think about it that way. I was kind of with the crowd being Katniss didn't do anything, oh, we were just told what happened in the end. But now that I'm a little bit older and I understand the way the world works a little bit more, I can have an appreciation for the idea of unity, the idea that we're stronger together. Surprisingly, there's quite a lot of overlap from the Hunger Games world to our own. I feel if you can say that, then there is something wrong with our world. Everyone banding together, everyone rallying for one common goal. Quite reminiscent, if I do say so myself. Which is another reason I think that the whole do this together, we're all in this together, unity theme is really important, because in real life, it's not really just one person that brings change. Yeah, one person can rise above a lot of people and help steer that change, but it's a group. It's everybody coming together that makes things happen. In my opinion, this story was never about one person saves the entire world for everybody. It's a story about everybody saves the entire world for everybody. And I think that's really powerful. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy the one person saves the world for everybody, okay? I love Harry Potter. I love Percy Jackson. I love Avatar. Of course, those are the 3 first things to come into my mind. But I also have, I think, a newfound appreciation and respect for an everybody comes together to save the world for everybody kind of story like this. I don't know, that's just my hot take on it. So, I suppose that the only question left to ask is the Hunger Games series still good? And my answer is yeah, yeah, it's still really freaking good. Some stuff I loved just as much as I did the first time around. Some stuff I enjoy even more and appreciate even more. I think when I went into this, I kind of had a feeling that this would be the answer, that The Hunger Games would still be good. I mean, it's still talked about, it's still widely loved, by me too. I absolutely love this series so much. But I think I wanted to see what would stick the same way that it did all those years ago, what would differ, what I thought about certain things now, and I think it was definitely interesting. Alright, that's all I have for you. This was one heck of a week and a half. I really just read this entire series in a week and a half. Wow. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would love to do this with more series from like early 2010s to 2015s. The one that I'm immediately thinking of next is Divergent, because like when you think about The Hunger Games, what follows after it is Divergent, so I'm thinking that that could be fun. I don't remember anything about those books, but I remember they were popular and I remember reading them, so maybe it's time I revisit them to see if they are still good. But yeah, if you have suggestions for other really popular series that you'd like me to revisit, leave them in the comments. I will see what I can do. If you like this sort of content and you want to see more of it from me, then make sure to hit that subscribe button because I make videos every Friday. Also, I'm on platforms, so if you want to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, and Letterboxd, those links will be in the description down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!